Well, Mr. Secretary, your entire delegation, welcome to the Pentagon. It's great to see you. It was wonderful to meet you the first time in Brussels and have some great interactions about our mutual interests, no doubt. And your Prime Minister, it was a privilege to meet him as well when he was here last week. Our nations, as you know, share a long and special relationship, stronger today than ever before. I experienced that firsthand myself, as many of our generation has, on the battlefield, shoulder to shoulder with British troops in Afghanistan. I know how capable they are, how tough they are, and how close our bond is as brothers across the Atlantic, full stop. And so we are grateful for, the many years that we have stood by each other's side. And also, at the same time, we are in the middle of a dynamic security environment where on that continent, President Trump is calling on our European allies to take the lead. And you have done just that, sir. In fact, you chaired the first meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group that I had a pleasure to speak to. That was your first time as chair, and you'll continue to. And that's, again, the United Kingdom stepping up. And then once again, when your Prime Minister was here, you called me. We had a chance to speak briefly about the increase in defense spending that the UK is undertaking. So UK leadership is absolutely critical, and we very much appreciate it. We want to work together to achieve peace and security in Europe by working to bring an end to the war in Ukraine, building sustainable deterrence on the continent, and then increasing our allied capabilities and interoperability. And European leadership of NATO, led by the UK, led by others, is, we believe, the future of defense on the continent, ensuring we provide a peaceful future for your kids and my kids and your grandkids and my grandkids. That's ultimately what it's about. I also want to thank the British people for the warm support they give to U.S. forces stationed in the UK as well. It's a long-standing relationship that we are very grateful for. So you're true allies, longtime friends. We're new friends, but we're getting there, and fellow warriors. So thank you very much for being here, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Secretary, thank you for such a warm welcome and such warm words. It's great to be back in Washington, and it's good to see you again. We last met last month in NATO, and then you challenged Europe to step up. You challenged us to step up on Ukraine, on defense spending, on European security, and I say to you that we have, we are, and we will further. And last week, the British Prime Minister announced the biggest increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War, and we will go further. You also asked the UK to step up on leadership on Ukraine alongside the US. And indeed, you were with me when we had the 46 nations round the table at a week's notice at the Ukraine contact group. Our meeting today follows very good discussions between President Trump and Prime Minister Starmer a week ago today, in which they both pledged to work together, our nations would work together to secure a lasting peace in Ukraine. And we have a chance today to discuss the progress on that path to peace, with the opportunity that President Trump has created now since the 20th of January. When your President and my Prime Minister met last week, your President also said that the UK and the US have a relationship like no other. And I think for me that was exemplified last night at the British Embassy, when we were able to lay on a party to celebrate the 250th birthday of the US Marine Corps. And for more than a century, your US Marines and our Royal Marines have trained together, they fought together, and too often they've died together, defending the values that our two free nations share. And Pete, as you say, you know that from your own experience and your own service. And in many ways, for me, they embody the sort of warrior force that both you and I as Defence Secretaries are dedicated in our roles to strengthen, because we know that we have to strengthen, together with allies, deterrence in the face of rising threats. And finally, if I may, you've spoken about the deep bond between our two nations, and I'd say to you, I'm here today to strengthen that defence and security bond between our two nations. It's needed now more than ever in this new era that we must face together. So thank you for receiving us, and thank you for welcoming our delegation, and I look forward to the discussions ahead.
And to that I say amen. Thank you very much. Appreciate you
Thank
being
you.
here. If it's okay, we'll take a few questions for either myself or the Secretary.
We'll take 2 from the U.S. press, and we'll take 2 from the British press. Go with the U.S.
Mr. Secretary, you have said that Europe needs to do more to contribute to defense. Is a security guarantee of troops from France and the UK enough for Ukraine?
I think it's been very encouraging to watch our friends in the UK and in France step up to say they are prepared to take the lead to ensure an enduring peace in Ukraine. What the President has also said time and time again is, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get both sides to the table. Let's get a commitment to peace, and that is what President Trump is actively doing, both with the Russians and Vladimir Putin, and also the Ukrainians and Zelensky. So there will be, in order to maintain enduring peace, there's a security aspect to it. The UK and France have pledged, along with others, to be the core part of that. There will be other aspects that are a part of further terms of the negotiation.
British press. Go ahead.
Secretary, there are reports that a negotiating team will be going to Saudi Arabia next week. Given a renewed push for peace, will you reconsider resupplying Ukraine with weapons, or have the tap been turned off permanently?
Oh, as the President has pointed out, it is a pause. Exactly what he said from the beginning, pause pending a true commitment to a path to peace. The President is paying a very keen eye to precisely what the Ukrainians are saying and doing about committing to that peace process, and we're very encouraged by the signs we're seeing. Ultimately, he will make the determination, but it is a pause for now.
U.S. press.
Yeah, I'm Lucy Ryan, Washington Post. Secretary Healy, a question for you. Obviously, you both have referenced this strong historic relationship. At the same time, what does it mean for the UK that its closest ally is now voicing the same narrative that Russia is voicing vis-a-vis the war in Ukraine and seeming to align itself more closely with Russia versus what it has done in the past?
Look, first of all, I don't believe, as members of government and decision takers, we're the people to comment on every twist and turn in this process. I'm fixed on the historic opportunity the President has created to bring a lasting and secure peace to Ukraine. That's what he and my Prime Minister dedicated themselves to do last week. And you've seen since then the British Prime Minister pull together in London leaders of 18 nations to discuss the detail of a path to peace. And the President also has asked Europe to step up, and we are. The UK is ready to take on a leadership in that task. You saw that from Keir Starmer at the weekend, in the way that he is pulling the parties together, ensuring that we take Ukraine with us, and that we work closely alongside the United States. And it's the detail of those discussions, which are rightly behind the scenes, that the Defence Secretary and I will now pursue this afternoon.
Last question from Danielle
Yeah,
with the UK press.
Thanks so much, Danielle Sharon, Daily Telegraph. This is for both secretaries. What's the plan if the Ukrainian front line falls apart in the next couple of days? Does Britain, Europe, have permission to intervene and help? And secondly, if I may, does Britain have the ability to use its nuclear deterrent by itself?
Nobody who has been to Ukraine, who has talked with Ukraine, who has worked with the Ukrainian leaders or met the Ukrainian servicemen and women, or the civilians, believe that they will not fight. Nor Do I or the Prime Minister doubt that, as President Zelensky has said, they are ready to sign the important economic deal with the US? They are ready for a ceasefire. They want the guarantees and the security that must follow to ensure that they will not again face Russian invasion and Russian aggression. But they, like we, are willing to work to make the most of this unique opportunity that we now have, and that's a responsibility on all of us. And that is very clear from our Prime Minister, it's clear from the President, it's also clear from President Zelensky too. And as far as your question about nuclear, it is a question that it would be unthinkable and unprecedented for any Defence Secretary or any government to start just commenting on or speculating on.
We are watching, obviously, very closely the front line of troops. I mean, our chairman, the Defense Department, of course, we monitor that very closely. But ultimately, we're interested in creating the conditions for peace. I mean, to the previous question from the Washington Post, the press is interested in narratives. Our president is interested in peace. So we will get characterized one way or another. Oh, your stance is pro-Russia or pro... It's all garbage. The president got elected to bring peace in this conflict, and he is working with both sides in a way that only President Trump can. Let's be clear. Only President Trump can, to bring them to the table to end the killing. And I can tell you from being behind the scenes, he is laser focused on making that happen, and we're closer today than we've ever been because of his leadership. Thank you very much.
Press.
Thank you, Press. Really enough. Thank you.